In the heart of Lagos, behind the glass towers and the noise of danfos, lived Chief Odogwu, a man whose wealth whispered through every corner of the city. But unlike many, Odogwu never craved attention. He lived quietly, watching. His children wore designer clothes, drove foreign cars, and dined on gold-plated spoons. His wife, Madame Uju, hosted charity balls but never touched the beggars she claimed to help. One evening, while looking through an old family album, Odogwu sighed. Are they truly mine or just my money's shadow? He closed the album and made a decision. If he wanted the truth, he'd have to lose everything on purpose. The next day, Odogwu vanished. No driver, no bodyguard, no accounts, just a faded kaftan, a wooden cane, and a plan to test the hearts of those he called family. The city soon echoed with headlines. Billionaire missing. But Odogwu was not lost. He was watching, just from the shadows. Odogwu returned home, not in a black jeep, but on foot. His beard was unkempt, his slippers dusty, and his eyes sharp. At the gate of his mansion, he knocked. The guard blinked. Who are you? It's me. Ah, Chief, Odogwu whispered. The guard laughed and shut the gate. Oga no dey house abeg. Poor men no get business here. He walked away, not recognizing the man he had once bowed to. Odogwu stood there, alone. It had begun. Over the next few days, he wandered. No one noticed him, not even his own children. They walked past him on the street, eyes fixed on their phones. He even saw his son, Kunle, throw coins at a beggar and curse him. Lazy fool, he said. Odogwu's heart sank. So this is who they are without the shine, he thought. But he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Madame Uju was at her salon, surrounded by perfume, champagne, and gossip. Her friends laughed loudly, talking about trips to Dubai and husbands they didn't love. Suddenly, a dusty man appeared at the glass door. Uju, it's me, he said. Everyone paused. Madame Uju stood up, heels clicking, her gel shining under the light. She looked him in the eye, then laughed. I don't know this beggar. Someone called the police. The room burst into whispers. Odogwu stood frozen. His wife, the woman he built empires with, had erased him with one sentence. The police came, pushed him away. But before he left, he looked back, and in her eyes, he saw it. Emptiness, not even hatred, just nothing. And that was the moment the test truly began. Odogwu sat under a wooden shed beside Mama Nkechi's pepper stall. The skies turned dark and the heavens opened. Rain poured like judgment. People ran, shielding themselves with nylon bags and wrappers. But Odogwu sat still, letting the water wash over his disguise. He was cold, but not from the rain. His soul was cold. Mama Nkechi, a widow who sewed pepper with cracked hands, noticed him shivering. Papa, come closer before the cold carries you away, she said, scooting over. She gave him a dry wrapper and shared her akara. Odogwu's eyes watered, not from the pepper, but from the kindness of someone who had nothing. Thank you, he whispered. She smiled. We all day manage. Wetin men go do? That night, he slept beside her stall, using a sack as a pillow. No one recognized the billionaire lying in the mud, but he saw something that day. Strangers could show love where blood had turned blind. Meanwhile, his first son, Kunle, was at a nightclub, drowning in champagne and pride. With loud music shaking the walls, he sprayed naira notes on dancers. Money no be problem, he shouted, laughing. A friend leaned in and asked, Any news about your father? Kunle shrugged, sipping his drink. He'll come back when he wants, or not. Either way, the account still they ring. Laughter erupted. Behind the DJ booth, a screen showed the missing person alert Odogu's face. None of them noticed. None cared. Kunle had already started pushing the lawyers to declare their father legally missing. That way, he could access full control of the estate. Man must secure the bag before mommy messed things up, said to himself. He didn't know that same night, a hungry Odogwu walked past the club, barefoot and wet. The glass separated them, but so did their hearts. Back at the mansion, Nozi, the youngest maid, walked outside to empty trash. She saw a man by the gate, soaked, weak, and coughing. Her heart beat fast. Something about him felt familiar. Oga, she whispered. Odogwu looked up. He wanted to speak, but his throat was dry. Is it really you? She asked again. She quickly opened the side gate, gave him water, and rushed him to the abandoned driver's quarters behind the mansion. Please, hide here, she whispered. If Madam sees you, she will call the police again. That night, Nosy brought him warm food and a blanket. She even cleaned his feet and gave him balm for his cracked heels. You were always kind to me, she said, eyes wet. Odogo held her hand. You're the first light I've seen since this darkness began. And in that little room, surrounded by broken things, something whole began to grow. Madame Uju wore a red lace wrapper and gold earrings shaped like stars. She sat across from a sleek lawyer at a quiet cafe in Ikoyi. So you're saying if he's not found in 30 days, we can declare him dead? She asked, stirring her coffee slowly. The lawyer nodded. Yes, madam, you can assume legal control of all assets. Uju smiled faintly. Then begin the process. We can't leave the empire without a head. She didn't shed a tear. She didn't wear black. To the world, she looked like a grieving wife. But inside, her heart had long moved on. The lawyer asked, What about the children? She waved her hand. Conley will be fine. He's just like his father, greedy. As she left the cafe, she didn't know that a young waitress had overheard everything, and that waitress happened to be Ngozi's cousin. That evening, Ngozi's cousin rushed to the back quarters. Ngozi, you won't believe what I heard, she panted. She told her everything, how Uju was planning to declare Chief Odogwu dead and take over everything. Ngozi's eyes widened. She doesn't even care if he's alive, she whispered. In the corner of the room, Odogwu sat silently, staring at the oil lamp flickering beside him. His face didn't move, but his heart did. It cracked. So this is what my love became, he whispered. Ngozi sat beside him. You must show yourself. Fight for what is yours. But Odogwu shook his head. Not yet. Let them finish writing the truth of who they really are. Then I will return with the ink of justice. Nosy held his hand tight. The fire in her eyes gave him strength. His empire was breaking, but maybe, just maybe, something better would rise from the pieces. Adana, the last child of Odogwu, had always been different, quiet, observant. She wasn't in Lagos. She lived in Enugu, where she ran a small non-profit. When news broke about her father's disappearance, she cried every night. She called home, but no one gave her real answers. He probably ran off with a new woman, Kunle said, but Adana's heart refused to believe it. One day, she returned home unannounced. She walked the halls of the mansion, feeling a coldness that wasn't always there. In the kitchen, she saw Ngozi sneaking food into a flask. Who is that for? She asked gently. Ngozi froze. It's for the gardener. But Adana knew better. She followed her from a distance, and that's when she saw him, her father, sitting on a stool in a torn wrapper. She gasped, tears flooding her eyes. Papa, she whispered. He turned slowly, and when their eyes met, He began to cry. Scene 1. Secrets in the driver's quarters. Adana stood frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. Papa, how? She whispered, slowly stepping into the small, dusty room. Odogwu reached for her hand, and she fell to her knees beside him. He touched her hair softly. I had to see the truth, Adana. I had to know who loved me and who loved the wealth. Adana's heart broke in her chest. And now you see it, she said, her voice trembling. Odogwu nodded slowly. Even your mother, the woman I built my world with. He couldn't finish. Adana hugged him tightly. We must do something. Let's tell the press you're alive. But Odogwu stopped her. Not yet. I'm not done watching, but I'll need your help. Adana nodded. Whatever you need. In that moment, father and daughter made a silent vow to stand together until the very end. Meanwhile, Kunle was in a boardroom at Odogwu Holdings, surrounded by the company's top executives. Gentlemen, he began, standing tall in a tailored suit, it's time we restructure this empire. I'll be taking over as acting CEO 1 director, cleared his throat. What about your mother? She'll handle the charity arm. I'll manage the money. Papers were signed. Cheers were raised. Champagne popped. Kunle leaned back in his chair like a king. But what he didn't know was that Adana had installed a small camera in the room. Every word, every signature recorded. She sent the footage to a private email account and titled it, Evidence for Judgment Day. The sun thought he was rising, but every step took him closer to a fall. In a well-decorated room filled with flowers and media men, Madame Uju wore black lace and held a white handkerchief. Her eyes remained dry as she addressed the cameras. Today, we say goodbye to my husband, Chief Odogwu, she began. Though his body was never found, his memory lives in our hearts. Reporters clicked photos. Some even wept. A framed photo of Odogwu sat on a velvet stand beside her. She had planned every detail of this memorial for a man still alive. Behind the scenes, she had started transferring properties into her name. She was ready to claim the full estate. But deep within the crowd stood someone in a cap and sunglasses, Adana. Her face was calm, but her heart beat with fire. The final act was nearing, and Uju was not ready for the ending she had written. 3 days after the fake memorial, Uju returned to the mansion and found an envelope on her vanity table. No name, no stamp, just sealed in red wax. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter written in Chief Odogwu's unmistakable handwriting. Uju, I see you. I've heard every lie, watched every smile you wore while burying me alive. I am not dead, but your love is. Her hands began to tremble. She ran downstairs and called Kunle. Who gave you this? She yelled, but he was equally shocked. Mommy, what are you saying? She stormed into her bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. For the first time in years, Madame Uju cried, not out of love, not out of loss, but out of fear. Somewhere out there, the man she betrayed was watching her every move, and he wasn't done. In a quiet corner of the mansion, Adana met with Ngozi in the driver's quarters. She handed her a flash drive. Take this to Barrister Ifeanyi. Tell him my father is alive and everything on here proves the fraud happening in this house. Ngozi nodded with determination. What about your mother? She asked. Adana looked away. Let the law handle that. But her heart was heavy. As much as Uju had failed them, she was still her mother. The lines were now blurred between family and betrayal. Meanwhile, Odogwu, still hidden away, began drafting documents of his own, wills, confessions, testimonies. Let them expose themselves, he whispered. When the curtain drops, only truth will stand. That evening, Adana quietly began moving files, locking accounts, and setting up protections. The house that once sparkled with pride was now a web of lies, waiting to collapse. A secret message was sent to all board members of Odogwu Holdings. Anonymous, short, powerful. Chief Odogwu is alive. Emergency meeting. 3 days. Come or fall with the lies. Phones rang. Meetings were cancelled. Emails flew back and forth. Kunle panicked. Who sent this? He barked at his assistant. No one knew. Uju paced in her room, clutching her chest. He's playing with us, she whispered. In the midst of the storm, Odogwu sat under an old mango tree outside town, dressed in a clean white wrapper, staring at the clouds. Beside him, Adana handed him a file. Everything is ready, he smiled. Then the time has come. Let them see that even broken kings still rise. The thunder rumbled in the distance, but this time it wasn't from the sky. It was from the truth, marching forward. The boardroom at Odogwu Holdings was packed. Men in agbadas and suits murmured nervously. Uju sat stiffly at the head of the table, flanked by Kunle, who wore dark glasses to hide his fear. Suddenly, the door opened, and in walked the man they had buried, Chief Odogwu, alive, whole, silent. The room fell into complete silence. A pen dropped. No one breathed. Uju's lips parted, but no words came out. Kunle stood and staggered backward. This can't be. Odogwu placed the folder on the table. Minutes will now begin, he said calmly, taking his rightful seat. But first, to those who signed papers over my grave, I say this. Justice doesn't die. It watches, then it returns. Cameras hidden in corners streamed the moment live. Across Nigeria, people watched in shock as the dead billionaire reclaimed his throne. The storm had truly arrived. One by one, Odogwu opened the documents. Here's the footage of Kunle trying to push legal control before the law allowed, he said, clicking a button. On the screen, Kunle's boardroom ambition was exposed. Here's the petition Madam Uju filed to seize all my assets, he continued. Gasps echoed. Uju covered her mouth in shame. And here are testimonies from loyal staff, hidden recordings, and statements of betrayal. He looked at each of them slowly. My children, my blood, my wife, all chose gold over love. Then he paused. Except for one. He turned to Adana, the only one who searched for truth, not inheritance. Adana's eyes filled with tears. Uju burst out. You planned this to humiliate me. Odogwu replied softly. I planned this to see you. The real you. The room had no defense left, only silence. Uju returned home and locked her door. She tore off her jewelry, kicked off her heels, and stared at her reflection. How did we get here? She whispered. On the wall hung a portrait of her wedding day, her in white, Odogwu in a sharp brown agbada, holding hands in love. She grabbed the frame and smashed it to the floor. Then she sat on the bed and wept. I wanted more. I gave everything. Wasn't it enough? But deep inside she knew it wasn't love that drove her. It was control, power, image. That night, she packed a small bag and left the mansion. No driver, no helper, just a black shawl and her thoughts. Outside, the night wind was cold, but the guilt inside was colder. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was she had lost the man, and worse, she had lost herself. Madam Uju wandered the streets of Lagos in plain clothes. No makeup, no flashy car, no cameras following her. Just a woman with swollen eyes and heavy regrets. She passed by a roadside food seller. The aroma of moi moi and jollof rice teased her hunger, but she had no cash. She sat on a bench nearby, lost in thought. The seller, noticing her tear-stained face, walked over. Auntie, You dey all right? Uju nodded weakly. You never chop today, the woman asked again. Uju shook her head. The woman returned with a plate and said, No worry. Eat. God bless you. Uju stared at the food, humbled. This simple kindness, was something she hadn't felt in years. As she ate slowly, a thought hit her. She had gained the word, but lost her soul. She wiped her eyes, looked at the woman, and whispered, Thank you. This saved me. Back at Odogu Holdings, legal officers escorted Kunle out of the building. You face a tribunal for corporate fraud, one of them said. Kunle tried to plead, but nobody listened. Staff who once hailed him now watched in silence, some even in relief. This empire was never yours, one old accountant muttered. In his prison cell later that day, Kunle stared at the wall. How did I end up here? He asked no one. He remembered his father's calm face at the board meeting. Not angry, just disappointed. I just wanted to prove I could lead, he muttered. But greed had turned ambition into destruction. Odogwu, from his office, signed documents for the company's new leadership, this time with wisdom guiding it. Let every child of mine learn. The throne is not inherited, it is earned. That evening, as the sun set over the Odogwu estate, Adana and her father sat under the mango tree in the backyard. Birds chirped softly. The air smelled like earth and hope. Will you ever forgive her? Adana asked. Odogwu didn't reply immediately. He looked up at the sky, the same sky he once watched from the streets. Forgiveness is not about them, he finally said. It's about freeing myself. He pulled out an old photo of Uju and held it gently. She was once my everything. I don't know where that woman went, but maybe she needs to find herself too. Adana nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. And what about us? She asked. Odogwu smiled. We rebuilt, brick by brick, but this time with truth. The wind rustled the mango leaves. Somewhere, far from the mansion, Uju stood outside a church, ready to enter, ready to repent. Madame Uju sat in the church's back row, her hands trembling. The priest spoke about grace, about second chances, about how even the most broken souls can be mended. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. When the service ended, she walked slowly to the altar. Father, she whispered, I betrayed my husband. I buried him with my words while he still lived. I was blinded by pride. The priest listened silently. Can I ever be whole again? She asked, voice cracking. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said gently, Only those who know they are broken can be healed. That night, Uju wrote a letter and walked all the way to the Odogwu estate. She didn't enter. She placed the letter at the gate and walked away. In that moment, she left behind the title of Madam and began her journey back to Uju. Weeks passed. The house that once echoed with silence now rang with honest laughter. Ngozi was officially made head of staff. Adana was named director of the Odogwu Foundation. Under her lead, funds flowed to orphanages, widows, and community farms. Odogwu Holdings was no longer just about profits, it was about purpose. Chief Odogwu, now bearded and wise-looking, began mentoring young entrepreneurs. Her story of testing love and rediscovering truth spread across Nigeria. Even universities invited him to speak. One morning, as he watered the small garden behind the house, Adana approached him. The board wants to name the new outreach wing after you. He chuckled. Call it Uju House. Let grace live where greed once ruled. She smiled, proud of him. You really did forgive her, didn't you? He nodded. Sometimes the ones who hurt us are the ones who need healing most. One quiet evening, as the sun melted behind the clouds, a woman stood at the edge of the Odogwu compound. Her wrapper was simple, Her face carried peace, not pride. Uju, she clutched her letter, unsure if to knock. Just then, the gate opened. Odogwu stood there, barefoot, holding garden tools. They locked eyes, silence, tears. I came to say sorry, she said, voice shaking. I have nothing left except truth. Odogwu walked closer. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he opened his arms, and she fell into them, not because all was fixed, but because healing had begun. Behind them, Adana watched from the window. She smiled. The mansion was whole again, not perfect, but real. And that truly was the legacy worth keeping.